Hi, I'm Lindsay Coates with New Sauce Marketing Department, and this is New Sauce Practice Management Podcast Series. Today, we have Dr. Moshe Lewis, who is a pain management specialist and has successfully implemented a workplace wellness program in his own practice. So we're going to ask him some questions about workplace wellness and how to get that started. Hi, Dr. Lewis.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm sure many of us have heard the term about workplace wellness, but what does that encompass?
Sure. Well, I think it really involves the employer as well as the employees actively engaging in doing some types of exercises. And then probably a second piece would be making sure that we're looking at ergonomics a bit as well.
Okay, so what are some of the benefits of implementing a program then?
Right. Well, a lot of us say, unfortunately, we probably spend more time during the day, especially during the weekdays, in the office than we do in the gym or exercising, and certainly often even more so than at home. So it's a good place to try to make sure that we're exercising, getting out of our seats, moving around a little bit, because it's very easy, given the stresses of the workplace today, to really spend a lot of hours just working and forgetting to look at the clock and get up and move around.
Are there any financial benefits that you see?
I think they can be. They're somewhat indirect, to be fair, but certainly employers are seeing that if their staff is healthier and hopefully eating a little bit healthier and exercising a bit more, that they're not really going to the doctor as much and also being slowed down. So it can be an indirect benefit, but certainly a healthy staff, we feel, is a productive staff.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about medical practices who are preaching this stuff on a daily basis, it's kind of good to implement that yourself, I'm sure.
Exactly. We have our challenges, but it's good to not just say it, but also do it, lead by example.
Absolutely. So what are some things that people working in medical practices can do?
Right. So I think it starts with some of the basics we mentioned ergonomically. Many times it is pretty inexpensive these days to actually get an ergonomic evaluation. We're fortunate enough here to have a physical therapist as part of the practice. And so going and assessing that people are sitting in very comfortable chairs, that their eye contact is at 90 degrees, their elbows are at appropriate rest, that they have a footrest accordingly, and that their keyboard and monitor and heights are appropriate, are certainly a good place to begin, because as simple as that may seem or as easily overlooked as it may be, it really is one of the common things I see in my practice, people having repetitive injuries in their elbows, shoulders, and hands respectively because of bad ergonomics, bad posture. So Grandma always said, sit up straight.
So other than the ergonomics then, how can you get more active from sitting behind a computer screen?
Right. So I think next types of steps are actually getting a little bit more active. So we have software now, very easy apps that can freeze you out after 50 minutes or 55 minutes and force you to take a break. It should ideally be 10 minutes for every 50 minutes worked. Some people may only do 4 or 5 minutes, and we all understand that people are under a lot of deadlines and pressure to be productive. But literally getting away from the computer is important, that you get up, move around, circulate. That then could go to the next steps of literally going downstairs, just one flight, or coming up a flight of stairs and catching the elevator on the second floor if you're in a building that's vertical like that. And then if not something as basic as that, then walking around the office. So even without necessarily going very far, that trip to the water cooler can be productive for our heart and getting the metabolism going a little bit.
So it should definitely be encouraged by the practice owner, practice manager, walk to lunch if you can, stuff like that.
Exactly. We think that the employers can lead by example, and that's a very big step for all of us. It's very easy to cheat and not eat as healthy. And when you do an exercise activity, even something, as you pointed out, like walking to lunch, it already starts to get your mind thinking about the fact that, gosh, I'm maybe doing that to burn a little calories, get some good cardiovascular circulation. But this would also mean that when I'm making my food choices, I'm eating junk food or fast food, I really have to be a little bit more judicious as well. So the two can sort of go in tandem. The ability to sort of sit at the desk and eat and work through lunch almost brings up a vision of it might not always be healthy food choices that you're making.
How do you get started? How do you get a program implemented and in place so that employees feel comfortable getting involved?
Right. Again, I think that it starts with the employer, but many times if that may seem a little bit too complicated, it's picking someone on the staff, sort of doing an informal survey, let's say at the next staff meeting, to say this is something we'd like to implement. We believe in workplace wellness, and we'd like to find an employee champion. And so finding a very nice PC term like that could be a very good way, and then literally meeting and interacting with that person wouldn't take a lot of time, but just a few minutes to see what ideas do they have. Do they want to do something even more aggressive, like maybe start a walking group? And it can be before office hours or after hours or during lunch. We're not always implying it has to interrupt the flow of the workday, but something as simple as that would be a really great step. Many times each year as it goes by, somebody on the staff may be trying to do a fundraiser for various charity organizations. They have walkathons and bikeathons and marathons and things of that nature, and that's yet another good way that the staff could form their own group. So they represent XYZ organization at the charity. It's good for not only team spirit and morale, but also employee morale that they're interacting in an activity. So those are just some easy, simple starting off types of approaches that don't really require significant funding or equipment. Here I'm in the Bay Area, and some organizations have taken it to that level where they do have classes available and they're a little bit more organized, or they have equipment available. But that really, would really come further down the road and is a little bit more involved.
Okay, so are there any drawbacks then?
Sure. Well, I think employers always worry about the fact that somebody might get injured, or if there could be some liability that we were recommending people to be more active, and then all of a sudden somebody slipped and fell on the stairs. But in reality, when you look across the numbers, that those types of accidents, slips and falls and things like that would have occurred anywhere. We don't see a tremendous bump up. Again, very few employers are getting actual exercise equipment and very intense classes going on their premises. So I do think that if somebody's thinking about an aggressive program, you bring in people who are certified, many of whom are often willing to volunteer just to be able to network and meet the staff. But the other types of liabilities are just certainly trying to make sure the place is kept well lit and that there aren't a lot of hazards in the work setting, which is very easy. We all deal with a sense many times of being in a setting for work where we see overcrowding, too much equipment, too many things in the way, and then if one's trying to have a class or have people be more active, they can hurt themselves. So it's just really trying to prevent accidents.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You've definitely made me want to sit up more straight.
Sure, absolutely. Grandma was right. She had it down.
Exactly. Good posture. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope all of our listeners join us next month.